Okay, let's check if it is actually recording. Yes, it is. So, Jai Shriman Narayan, thank you for participating.
Jai Shriman Narayana.
And we will discuss today. We talk about the Gayatri Mantra. Say, you were introducing.
Yes, Mataji, my obeisances to you, and thank you for inviting me. So what I wanted to discuss today was the Gayatri Mantra, and in particular, its significance and how we should approach it. And I think this is such an important topic because everyone who is either a Hindu or wants to learn about Hinduism has heard of the Gayatri Mantra, yet I struggle as a neophyte, Mataji, to find suitable explanations as to its true meaning, its true significance. And we hear a lot, Mataji, about consciousness and how we should approach it. And what I wanted to understand, Mataji, was the deeper significance of Gayatri Mantra. And this should perhaps lead us to a discussion on the Rig Veda, because the Rig Veda is very popular, but how should we as neophytes, how should I as a neophyte and other neophytes approach something as profound as the Rig Veda? What mindset should we have to understand it? And I'd love to hear your thoughts, Mataji.
Okay, very good. Thanks. So, in fact, this is a very interesting and important subject, because when we speak of Vedic knowledge, usually people refer to Vedas as the 4 Veda Samhitas, which are the Rig, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva. Samhita means collection. They are literally collections of hymns, which the name Rig itself means hymn. So they are rigs. Now, some of the other collections have the same ones, or added. The Samaveda is more specifically to be sung with music, while the Rig Veda is more for meditation. But they're all chanted, and they're all connected to the Karma Kanda part of the Vedic knowledge. Karma Kanda is the section about the duties, the religious duties of the Aryas, the Dvijas, the twice born, those who have been initiated as Brahmanas specifically, and in a lesser measure as Kshatriyas and Vaishyas. So the initiation ceremony is called the Upanayana, which is the awarding of the sacred thread. Now, all this is also described sometimes as orthodox in Hinduism, because it's the most ancient social system. In fact, the Karma Kanda is also called Purva Mimamsa, which means the knowledge, the ancient knowledge. This is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, specifically in the 3rd chapter, where Krishna tells Arjuna that in the beginning of creation, the material world, Prajapati Brahma created the various religious rituals, created the devas and the human beings, and the rituals, the meditations, the knowledge, the knowledge expression, because the knowledge is eternal, but Brahma created the form of the expression of knowledge, means the Vedas, by which the human beings should meditate on the devas. and cooperate with the devas. So it's very important to understand that the entire Karma Kanda, the entire Purva Mimamsa, is material knowledge. It doesn't concern the Supreme Brahman. It doesn't concern the Atman. It doesn't concern the yoga, tantra, and all that. It's just the meditation on the devas. Who are the devas? The devas are the personifications of the archetypes of this material universe, which preserve and sustain the existence of the material universe. This is something that not many people can actually understand. Because, like, for example, on Quora, I'm answering a lot of questions, and lots of people, including Indian Hindus, ask questions about the Vedic deities and why Vishnu and Shiva and Durga are not Vedic deities, what happened, how they were introduced, because there is this general misconception introduced by the Abrahamic Indology that the Vedic knowledge has gone through some kind of evolution.
It's fascinating that you've said this because, and again, Mataji, I'm the first person to have these misconceptions. You don't laugh at this, but I thought, I was thinking in my head,
yeah.
Indra, Agni, they're mentioned, Indra, Agni, they're mentioned in the Rig Veda, there's a lot of emphasis. Where are they now in the Puranas?
Exactly.
And I had this division.
Exactly.
I had a chronological division that I could not tie up metaphysically, that prior to 3000 something BC, we had Indra, we had Agni, etc., etc. We had Vayu, and then all of a sudden we have Krishna, Mahadeva. What's going on here? So I had this artificial division. So please carry on, and I have some more questions on this. So please carry on.
Yeah, because this is the most important point to understand. Because if we understand this, everything else goes to the proper place. Otherwise we remain confused. So basically, what we see in the Puranas, for example, and in the Tantra, and the Yoga, are mostly, sometimes the devas are mentioned, but only in connection with the Lila of the Supreme Brahman. The Puranas and the Tantra are actually focusing on the spiritual dimension, on the spiritual science, not on the material science. They also speak of material science. They're not against material science. So they speak about the devas, they speak about the cosmology, the shape of the universe, and all that. But the main topic, the main focus of Puranas and Tantra, especially the Tantras, is the worship of the Supreme Brahman, the meditation on the Supreme Brahman. So the science of the Supreme Brahman, the science of the Atman and Paramatman, Bhagavan, is not material, is personal. So we can make a distinction, if we want, if we like, between religion and spirituality. Of course, religion recognizes Vishnu, and recognizes Shiva, and recognizes Shakti. So even in the Veda Samhitas, we will find mentions about Vishnu and Shiva and Shakti. Shiva is generally called Rudra, because even if Shiva Mahadev is a supreme Brahman, still he manifests as in the material universe and works on a material principle. The material principle by which Mahadev acts in the material world is Rudra. There are 11 Rudras, which are 11 forms of Shiva. And these forms of Rudra are in charge of the dissolution of the creation, which is as important as the creation itself, because it's a very nature of the material world that everything is created and maintained and then disappears. It is dissolved, again, recycled. We can say today we have this recycling idea that nothing is destroyed but everything is recycled, which is true. In a sense, the entire universe is recycled, because there are cycles of creation, maintenance, and destruction. And again, creation. Destruction is as important as creation. Then we go to the specific subject of theology, why the material world is created. Then it's another thing. We will find that in the Puranas, we'll find that in Tantra, but we are not going to find much of that in the Veda Samhitas, because the Veda Samhitas are texts of meditations on the material principles of the creation, of the manifestation, material manifestation. So that's why we have Surya, we have Agni, Indra, and so on. All these represent God in the sense they represent Brahman. This means they represent consciousness. They are consciousness. The archetypal, ontological existence is consciousness. So Surya is a consciousness of the sun, is the principle of the sun. The principle of the sun is consciousness. And Indra is the principle of kingship. We have mentioned that in connection with the Indra Yatra, that he is connected with, to the Ratha Yatra of Jagannath in Puri. The Indra Yatra is still, it was, I don't know if it's still performed now, in Nepal. Until very recently, it has been documented, and. So we were discussing about that in connection with the Govardhana Puja, the Govardhana Lila, the Purana, Krishna, blah, blah, all the story. Now, Indra is the principle of kingship, so much that the term Indra is used normally to refer to kings. Like, you must have heard the name Narendra.
Yes, very much so. Of course, Narendra Modi, of course.
No, by the way. And what is the meaning? Is the Indra of human beings, which is the king. And Gajendra, you heard about Gajendra.
Yeah, Gajendra the elephant, etc. Yeah,
which means the king of the elephants, is the Indra of the Gajas, the elephants.
So Mataji, I have a question.
Yeah.
Quite timely, actually. So you've said that in the Veda Samhitas, there's a lot of emphasis on the material aspects of manifestations of consciousness.
Yes.
Surya, Indra, etc. Why did the Aryas of the Rig Veda
can you hear me?
why did they not glorify, Vishnu and Shiva?
Oh, they do, but Vishnu and Shiva,
they were much more advanced. They didn't need to.
Yeah.
This was specifically.
Okay. Can you hear me? Because I think that the internet connection is not so good.
It's fine. I can hear you absolutely fine.
Okay.
So carry on, please. Carry on.
Yeah. So you were asking why Vishnu and Shiva and Shakti are not particularly mentioned in the Veda Samhitas, because
yes,
Vishnu is actually mentioned in the Veda Samhitas, but as an avatar. It doesn't have such a big importance, because the Veda Samhitas don't focus on avatars. Vishnu as an avatar manifests in the material world, so in a sense is a part of the material world. And so Shiva as Rudra is a part of the material world. But as Param Brahman, Harihara, and Shakti do not belong to the material world only. They're not characteristic of the material world. They're beyond the material world. They're transcendental. So the devas such as Indra and the Rudras, they are not transcendental to the material world. They are transcendental, in the sense that they are not as limited as the human bodies, but they have a material body. The devas have a material body. They, it's tricky, because saying material, people automatically think of physical, gross elements.
Yes, we do. Yes, absolutely.
That are limited by space, time, and individuality. But within the material universe, there are realities that are much more subtle than that. But they're still material. So the devas, why Krishna? Tell.
Absolutely. So Mataji, from the neophyte perspective, we, and I want to know if this is correct. We see a lot of emphasis on the Supreme Brahman in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, just as an example.
The Upanishads.
Yet when we go to the Rig Veda, we do see that, of course, but we see a lot of emphasis on Agni, Vayu. Is that because, Mataji, is this because, I'm wondering, I don't know if you can confirm this.
It's because the Rig Veda and the other, hymns, rigs, of meditation on the devas are a social religious duty of the leaders of human society to keep human society in harmony with the higher laws of material nature. You remember Krishna in the third chapter, Karma Yoga, he's saying, again, we were mentioning just a little bit earlier, that the Prajapati created the manifestations of the devas and the human beings and the manifestation of the Vedic knowledge and the rituals. And Krishna says, then Prajapati gave these rituals, these yagyas to the human being and say, by these yagyas, by these rituals, you are supporting the devas. You will feed the devas. You will support the devas, and the devas will support you. This is the meaning of dharma. Dharma means to support. When we meditate on the devas, we support the existence of the devas. And the devas, as the archetype, the ontological archetypes of the material manifestations, they support our existence in the material world. Of course, they don't, we don't need the support of the devas for the existence of the Atman. But we need the support of the devas for the existence of our material mind and body.
So, Mataji, what you're saying here is the absence of the emphasis, the absence of a predominant, of a predominant emphasis on Vishnu and Shiva, does not mean that
people didn't know about Vishnu and Shiva.
Yeah,
exactly.
Probably, Mataji, was it because they had already, their level of realization was so high?
It's a different purpose. There is a difference between a book on mathematics and a cookbook.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that mathematicians, they cannot cook. They don't eat anything.
Completely understand that. Because some people say, it's because Vishnu came later, Shiva, Krishna came later.
This idea has been introduced by the Abrahamic, colonial Indology. Because the colonial Indology needed to bring up, enforce the idea of a linear progress from a primitive vision of the Vedas to a more philosophical, developed, progressive idea of the Upanishads. And then to the enlightenment of Christianity.
Indeed. So much.
And this is the same thing that the Sufis say, the Islamist Sufis say, that Krishna came to prepare the way for Islam.
Yes. So Mataji.
Yeah.
The Vedas, they are heard. This is, again, please deconstruct my neophyte's viewpoints. The Vedas are sound. They come from the divine. The rishis perceive them and wrote them down. That's why we have them. True or false? Is this true? Please deconstruct.
Yeah, it is true, but sound is not just sound. The interesting thing that, many people are missing is that the Vedic science is much more advanced than the present science and technology that we observe in the so-called modern world. So I see, the Hindu activists, getting all worked up, trying to prove that, that they had in Vedic times, they had the atomic weapons and the television. I remember Modi was saying, they had a television, and once Modi made the titles, but saying very, very seriously and all amazed that the Hinduism, the Vedic knowledge is so ancient, is 2,000 years old. It's just like, okay, you don't even start to understand what we are talking about, because the Vedic knowledge is, started to decline 5,000 years ago.
So, Mataji, how did we get from this sort of the Vedas in the form of sound or whatever it is, to them being written down? Can you please explain?
Yeah, sure, okay. As I was saying, really the Vedic science was, focused on sound, much like the current laser technology is based on light. to someone who doesn't understand laser technology, it will seem impossible that you can use light to cut a big slab, thick slab of steel.
Yes, they would find a laser a mysterious thing.
Impossible. Mythical, magic. No, it's just a myth. Now, in the same way, the Vedic science used sound in manners that people today find very difficult to understand. So when Vedavyas compiled, put the Vedic Shastra in writing, it was not a progress. Vedavyas put the Vedas in writing because he saw that in Kali Yuga the people will become less intelligent and have less memory and less understanding of the actual mantras and rigs and hymns and sounds. So, okay, let's write it down. Maybe people will, at least, let's teach them how to read them, recite them, so, they will at least carry on something.
So, Mataji,
yes.
What was it like? Because what's then apparent, what I'm sort of understanding is that Vedavyas understood the Kali Yuga was coming and all these things.
The Kali Yuga was already started. Yeah.
It already started. So he had to write that down because there was no other way that someone like me would be able to sort of read
Kali Yuga people
understand
in general.
It today.
All of us.
So people in general. So how was that knowledge, how shall we say, disseminated, or how was that knowledge applied prior to that, Mataji?
Prior to that, okay, one very interesting thing that I found in my research is that sound has different levels of manifestations, just like consciousness. You have heard about the 4 states of consciousness, which are Jagriti, the Swapna, Sushupti, and Turiya.
Yeah, reflecting the stages of sleep as well, basically.
Not really. The idea that it reflects the stages of sleep is a way of trying
to make the shoe fit.
Yeah, exactly. Validate the Vedic knowledge by using the parameters of the modern, so-called modern science and technology.
Yes.
I don't want to call it Western because,
No.
But, we can say current.
Modern science. It's It's modern science trying to make the shoe fit, so to speak.
Exactly.
Whereas it should be the other way around. But
exactly. So
I've heard of the 4 states of consciousness.
Exactly. The 4 states of consciousness. Jagriti is the physical consciousness, logical, something that we are conscious about when we are awake.
Yeah, so in Hindi, the jug is like wake, morning, jug, etc. Yeah, absolutely, jagat. Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Then we have the swapna, which is the dream state. And
sapna is the Hindi word for dream as well, isn't it?
Swapna, exactly. It's very, very self-explanatory. Okay. Yeah. Etymologically. So the dream is another state of consciousness that we can recognize in our waking state because we remember the dreams. Right? And by exercise, by practice, we can also become able to have lucid dreams, like controlling our dreams, being conscious in the dreams like we are conscious in the waking state.
Like lucid dreaming, Matsuji.
Yeah, lucid dreaming, which is something that we also do naturally in a certain measure. Like, for example, when we we are sleeping, we are dreaming, and then we need to go to the bathroom. So our dream becomes conscious. We become conscious that we are dreaming. Because in the dream, we are dreaming, we are going to the bathroom. But then, our subconscious say, oh, no, wait, that's not a real bathroom. You are dreaming. You need to wake up and actually go to the bathroom. Otherwise, you're going to make a boo-boo in your bed.
Yes, totally, I understand. So, yes, there are different states of consciousness, like science...
But we can see already that the level of consciousness in dreams is actually, usually different from the waking state. And we are not always conscious. We don't know consciously what is happening in the subconscious unless we integrate it. Which is something that not many people are, able to do or even can imagine they can do. Now, beyond the swapna, there is a susupti. The susupti is a state of consciousness. It's not a state of non-consciousness. Because it's consciousness uncoupled, detached from the physical body. But we know that the consciousness does not depend on the physical body. Like, for example, all these near-death experience, out-of-body experience, people in a coma, that they have a flat brain, activity, no brain activity. Still, they were conscious. They could see things and hear things, and when they came back from the coma, they were able to say, yeah, well, this happened, that happened, this person said that, this person said that, So what happens is that we cannot measure that consciousness by using instruments, physical instruments, that are, at most they reach the level of the dreaming state.
Yeah, we know the EEG is a very crude tool that can differentiate between REM, dream sleep,
exactly,
sleep, etc. It's a very crude tool. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now, beyond the susupti is the turiya. Turiya, the word turiya has no translation, so it is usually translated as the fourth state of consciousness. And in the same way, it's a non-manifested, but doesn't mean that it's not existing. It exists everywhere at the same time. It is beyond time and space. It's a Brahman consciousness. Because we are Brahman already. Atman is already Brahman. So we have that consciousness. And that consciousness is called Turiya.
Understood.
Now, the same thing happens with the sound. Our ears can distinguish and can perceive a certain range of frequencies in the sound manifestation. And this is compared to the waking state. We can hear the sound. But there is there are more subtle manifestations of sound that we can, for example, we can experience sound as energy. You can do that especially with the practice of yoga and tantra, through the the Vishuddha chakra, the activation, the empowering of the Vishuddha chakra, when the Vishuddha chakra is actually purified by mona, by silence, by the recitation of the mantras, so you can feel the power, you can feel the energy, like the prana of sound, which has nothing to do, it's not the sound, the physical sound, it's not the wave sound.
Absolutely. So Mataji, in just as a real world example, they treat they treat sort of kidney stones with with sound. So there's an energetic expression of sound that is used to sort of destroy certain stones, etc., and now even to treat tumors. So absolutely, we're very open to the idea that
but still the modern medicine doesn't really understand the phenomenon very deeply, because it can do much more than that. Sound is the primal energy of creation. The Om is Brahman.
I understand. So in effect, Mataji, what you're saying is that the sound is the true, like, energetic expression of God, the supreme consciousness.
That's why Saraswati is called Vak.
Vakdevi.
Vakdevi. So yes,
please carry on. This is fascinating, and I'm getting into the sort of the real sort of substance of what we wanted to talk about. So absolutely. Please
and we come by similarity to the Gayatri mantra, because the sun, Surya, also has different levels of existence and manifestation. Light, then we have, modern science has started to understand light a little better, because you can see there are various rays and frequencies. It's not just the light, the heat is infrared. Then we have the ultraviolet. So there are so many types of rays and energy that is emanating from the sun. And that's why we connect the Gayatri mantra of the sun, Savitri, with Om, with a primordial sound. And Om, Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha. Bhur, the three words, they are the material, the physical, the subtle, and the spiritual. The three dimensions, the three levels of existence. So the three words are the ordinary, the subtler, and the divine. And the divine, we come to the level of the devas, who are spiritual in the sense that they are material manifestations of consciousness, and consciousness is spiritual. So here we have, a very subtle boundary between the material and the spiritual. Why the Virat Rupa is so important in the Bhagavad Gita and in the Purana, in Bhagavata Purana as well. The beginning of the Bhagavata Purana, the first step in realization, is the study of the Virat Rupa. The Virat Rupa is a material form of Vishnu. How is material? Is it material? Vishnu is consciousness. You see that's why it's inconceivable. It's beyond the level of material understanding, intellect, beyond intellect. It's adokshaja, achintya, achyuta. It's completely beyond the duality.
Absolutely. So Mataji, with the Rig Veda, people say Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha, and Tat Savitur Varenyam. Why is it the what's the link? But you touched on this already, but I'd like to get some deeper understanding. Why does it talk about the sun? What's the relationship between the sun here? Why specifically the sun, Mataji?
The sun is the symbol, the light that we can meditate on, we can see. Is the radiance of the Brahmajyoti. All the light in this world comes from the Brahman.
So are you therefore saying here, Mataji, that the sun is not, me on a sunny day waking, well, it is that as well, but it's like me on a sunny day seeing everything light, but there's more to it here.
That's what the Gayatri mantra says, literally. Yeah. It says, Ta Savitur Varanyam. Bhargo means the radiance, the light, the splendor. Devasya, of God, Brahman.
So it's actually referring to the Brahma Jyoti here, Mataji, am I right, basically?
Yeah, exactly. But that is also, is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. You go and see. That all the radiance is coming from the Brahman. Light.
Absolutely, Mataji.
We are light.
Absolutely.
Atman is light, Brahman is light. Brahma Jyoti literally means the light of Brahman. So the Surya, the Bhargo, the radiance of the sun, the Surya, is just the radiance of Brahman that manifests in the material world. And the sun is the most important thing in the universe, in our universe, because it's giving light and energy and nutrition to all people on the everyone on Earth and on the solar system.
But Mataji, it's not just referring to the sun as the star in the sky that is 93 million miles away here. That's a material manifestation of a higher consciousness.
The principle of consciousness, that is called Surya, yes.
So was the Gayatri mantra simply putting in material form how a mantra about that Brahma Jyoti Mataji? Is that what it's
Brahma Jyoti, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have to meditate. By meditating means we focus our consciousness on the divine consciousness. Because the divine is, Brahman is consciousness. The light is consciousness. When Krishna starts in Gita to speak about the Atman, one of the most important things that he said, that is radiant. The Atman is radiant like 1,000 suns.
But so here's the other thing, Mataji.
Okay.
We have the Atman being the individual unit of consciousness and Brahman as the supreme consciousness. Is the Gayatri mantra about meditating on the supreme consciousness or meditating on the individual consciousness, or is that bringing
it's both. It's both. Through the Gayatri mantra, the individual consciousness in meditating on the supreme, the supreme consciousness that manifests in this material world, which is the Atman.
Indeed. So any delineation is bringing duality into the equation. That's what you're saying.
This is the problem, and that's why Krishna says very clearly many times in Gita that we need to overcome the duality, the illusion of duality. If we don't go beyond the illusion of duality, it's very difficult to actually understand what we are talking about, because transcendence is beyond duality. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Tatvamasi, you are Brahman. Sarvakalvimidam Brahman. Everything we see, everything around, everything that exists is Brahman. It means that everything is consciousness. But consciousness modulates itself in the material world in a visible form of, starting from the sun, Surya.
So, Mataji, here's another question.
Okay.
The Surya is not some paltry, quote-unquote, demigod. Please talk about the relationship between Surya and Narayana, because there is lots of confusion, even amongst Vaishnavas. Some say Surya is Narayana, some say, oh, it's different.
No, okay. Well, if people are confused, then you have to tell them that's Achintya Bheda Bheda. That the Tattva is Achintya and Bheda Abheda. There is a very, especially in Orissa, there is this very famous, very popular worship of Surya Narayana. Because Surya is Narayana. Surya is the center of Deviratrupa. Because the sun is the center of our universe. Not physically, not geographically, not as you were saying, not as a particular star in a particular place, but as a principle.
Yes, because the sun is integral to everything in the material world.
Exactly, everything is made, of energy that came from the sun.
Yeah, so those people who say, oh, it's a little star on the edge of the Milky Way, that's a completely, that's a very, very material.
It's very reductive. It's very reductive. It's just saying that, you are just a human being. Yeah, oh well, in a sense, but not just that.
Mataji, it's a comparison I was thinking of was like a child's mother and father are just two human beings of 7 billion in the world, whereas to that child, that mother and father is everything to them. So it's, I guess, does it go along those lines, Mataji?
Yeah. But not the mother and father as the specific human beings, but as the archetypes that are personified by those human beings. We are talking on the level of archetypes. Surya is not just a physical body. It's an archetype. The sun is, the greatest reality in all the cultures. You will go and see, in all cultures, there is this archetype of the sun that is, extremely important. It's central as an archetype, because the sun is light, is warmth, is nutrition, is protection, is enlightenment, is knowledge, is life.
Absolutely, Mataji. So, I've got a couple of follow-up questions because this is fascinating. Surya, we hear a lot of modern pagans who say, oh, these are archetypes. They're not real beings.
But they cannot understand that the archetype can also be a real being.
Please talk about this, because this is really critical for me and for your listeners to understand, because there's then a tendency to say, oh, Agni is the high priest archetype. He's the Lord of, he denotes the priest sacrifice.
Yeah.
He denotes the Hotar.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But there's a material form of Agni that.
Okay, the point is we need to understand. Yeah. The problem is when we identify with the gross body, ourselves, so we project the same limitations on the rest of the existence. Now, we know that the devas, because we see, from all the descriptions and the knowledge of the Shastra, that the bodies of the devas are not as limited as our human bodies, ordinary human bodies. But even the human body, through the practice of yoga, can, the real yoga, not just the, twisting up, the real yoga can develop the yoga siddhis. And what are the yoga siddhis? They are the power, the capacity, the ability to manipulate matter at, even at very subtle level. So the devas don't have a limited material body like we have. They are on a higher level of consciousness. So they can manifest any body they want.
Okay, so Mataji, this is absolutely wonderful. And this takes us nicely back to the Gayatri mantra.
Yes.
So Mataji, when I when I recite the Gayatri mantra, what should I be, what am I actually, I know this sounds like a silly question because I recite it every day, but what am I actually doing? What should be my frame of mind when reciting it? What am I actually doing? I'd love to hear this from you and your listeners. You and your listeners. I'm sure your listeners would love to hear that as well.
Okay. Yeah. Well, but it's literally in the text of the mantra. It says, we meditate so that it will inspire us. We meditate on the light of the radiance of the sun, that is the radiance of God, so that it may inspire us. We can absorb and develop the same qualities. We have mentioned other times that by meditation, we are focusing on an aspect of consciousness, of existence, so we are absorbing, developing the same qualities. This is how the prayer and the stutis and the worship of the various personalities of God works in order to achieve some particular material results. Like Krishna in Bhagavata Purana says, if you want health, you have to worship Surya. Why? Because when we meditate on Surya, we develop the same qualities of Surya, which are power, nutrition, energy, radiation, which is the basis for health. So, when we meditate on on anything, we we associate our consciousness to that consciousness. So we develop the same qualities, the same character, the same characteristics. So that's why we need to, the entire practice of yoga is how to control the mind and focus the mind on something good, on the supreme, on, the good thing, good principles, good things, good values, so that we can actually develop the same characteristics in our own consciousness. Is it clear?
Yes, Mataji, it's completely clear. Good. Where does Gayatri come from in the Gayatri mantra?
But Gayatri means which is to be sung or recited. Gayatri is the same root of Gita.
And what's the relationship between the Devi Gayatri and the Gayatri mantra?
Devi Gayatri is the energy, Savitri. Savitar is the sun, and Savitri is the power, the Shakti of the sun. Which, if you go and see, is Shakti, consciousness is Shakti. Everything is Shakti. All the forms are Shakti. Yadevi Sarvabhuteshu. Shakti Rupena Samsita. Then Sarva Rupa. Shakti is a form of everything. Without Shakti, there is no manifestation, there is no forms.
Yes, you mentioned that, Mataji, that on previous weeks, that Prakriti is the action, whereas Purusha is the receiver. So you distinguish those roles. Is it the same sort of principle here at play?
Exactly, it's the same principle. We cannot separate the perceiver from the energy. Consciousness is energy.
How is Surya linked with Gayatri and Savitri, Mataji?
Because the Surya is not a male separated from the female. Surya is both Savitar and Savitri at the same time. In fact, if you go and see, I think it's in the Rig Veda, there is the bridal hymn in which Surya is the bride. And in some, for example, in German language, the sun is feminine noun.
Yes.
And in Japan also, the sun is feminine.
So Surya has a male and a female, a masculine and feminine component in itself, basically, which is Savitar, it's just Savitri and Savitar, basically.
Yeah. Savitar and Savitri are practically the same person. Like you see the Ardhanareshwara, that it's both male and female at the same time. We cannot separate them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I understand, Mataji. That makes complete sense. So what we've come to now is the fact that the Gayatri mantra is effectively meditation on the effulgence of Brahman, the supreme consciousness, and it's a yearning to be qualitatively, yearning to be qualitatively similar to that of the supreme consciousness. Would that be correct?
Yeah, which is the translation of Prachodayat. May it inspire us by Dio. Yona Prachodayat.
When we hear of the word inspire, my crude modern mind thinks, inspire means I want to be inspired. But what it's saying here is a little bit
it's much more than just the inspiration.
Because there's a tendency to water down these terms when we translate them, and they get lost.
Yeah, of course, because there is no equivalent in the modern languages.
Would you mind expanding on this, Mataji? What does Prachodayat mean here, please?
Well, inspiration is transformation. Is manifestation, developing the same awareness, the same consciousness, the same qualities. Transformation in the sense that we are not becoming something else, but we develop what we already are.
Absolutely. Atman realization, Mataji.
Yeah.
Atman Tattva, is
exactly.
That basically?
Yeah.
That's what the wish is for in Gayatri mantra. We're wishing to be, we're wishing for Atman realization, basically.
Yeah. And the Atman realization that radiates in the material world, we need to become, self-realized, But in the material world, we become Suryas in our own right. We radiate energy and life. Just like when we meditate on the devas, we develop the same qualities. We support the existence of the devas, and the devas support our existence. We support the existence of Surya because we become Surya.
That makes complete sense, Mataji. Finally, Mataji, just to close off this discussion, Brahma Jyoti.
Brahma Jyoti, yeah.
Brahma Jyoti. We hear of lots of Atmans. What is the relationship between the Atman and Brahma Jyoti? What should that relationship be like, Mataji, in the absence of material conditioning? What is
the Brahma Jyoti, I see where your question is coming from.
Because Mataji, I've got a modern organization viewpoint of the Brahma Jyoti, which might have been influenced by certain groups. So I'd like to hear the
I know. Because usually when they speak of the Brahma Jyoti, they mean the non-evolved Anu-Atmas that are emanated from Mahavishnu and enter the material world as a non-developed Jivatmas.
Correct. An Atman that unfortunately developed ahamkara. So
no. After that, the Atman develops the ahankara. But before that, they are in a non-manifested, non-materially manifested form. So they're just light. They're just Jyoti. But they're still Brahman, Atman Brahman.
Right. So is this the original constitutional position of the Atman and Brahman? That is what Brahma Jyoti represents. Am I right, basically?
Yeah. So what happens until and unless, until we develop our Siddha Deha, our complete awareness, potential awareness in a complete form, we keep going back to the Brahma Jyoti every time the material universe, the material creation is reabsorbed in Mahavishnu's body. So, because we don't have a material body and material mind, at the time of the dissolution, the cyclic dissolution of the universe, we remain in the state of Jivatman, Anu-Atman, Jyotis.
That's when Brahma reaches 100 years, am I right, Mataji? Basically?
Yeah, basically, yeah. When Vishnu inhales. Yeah.
Absolutely. So Mataji, what's so significant? Again, just for the purposes of me and your listeners, what's the significance of the Brahma Jyoti? Is it the original constitutional position of every Atman? Is that a fair representation?
We will continue to be Brahma Jyoti. Because even when we develop the Siddha Deha is made of light. Like the Upanishad is saying, talking to Bhagavan, say, please, shield the light so that I can see your form. When Krishna says the Atman in the beginning, the Gita said the Atman is radiant like 1,000 suns. Even 1,000 suns would rise together in the sky, blah, blah, blah. We are always like that. We are like that in the beginning when we are not developed, and we continue to, because that is our nature. That is the nature of Atman Brahman. The Brahman is light. But it's not limited to the material manifestation of light. Just like the sound is not limited to the material vibration that our eardrums can perceive.
I understand, Mataji.
Good. Because they are difficult.
No,
difficult stuff.
They are, but but you know, I think Srila Prabhupada's sort of description has helped me significantly to sort of understand, at least to get the foundation of the Brahmajyoti. And I think that's helped me to sort of at least gain insight into the concepts that you've described here, if that makes sense.
Of course, because, you know, all the people who have been talking about the Atman, Brahman, Bhagavan, you know, we need to understand the context in which they were speaking, and we need to actually understand the perspective and put it in the big picture. And everything makes sense.
I have a final question for you, Mataji.
Yeah.
I have a final question for you, Mataji, to round off the discussion.
Okay.
A lot of your listeners and myself will pick up the Rig Veda. What would your advice be in terms of how we approach the Rig Veda? How should we approach our reading, and how do we gain an in-depth understanding of the Rig Veda based on this discussion today? How do we approach it, Mataji? How do we gain proper insight into something like the Rig Veda?
The Rig Veda is very difficult. We first need to study the Prasthanatraya, first the Bhagavad Gita very nicely, then the Upanishads very nicely, and understand the Upanishads and verify our understanding. You know, just not stop at thinking we could understand the meaning, because we need to verify. And we verify, we have the Bhagavata Purana, which is a very good text, you know, and we have not approached the Vedanta Sutra yet, you know, but the Vedanta Sutra is based on the concepts of Atman Brahman. When we can actually understand, you know, realize the Atman Brahman, then we can go back to the Rig Veda and actually understand what the Rig Veda is talking about. And that, you know that the Veda Samhitas, Rig Vedas and Karma Kanda, Purva Mimamsa, were not meant for everyone in the human society. They were meant for the Dvijas, the people who already have attained the level of Brahman realization. What is the meaning of Brahmana? Brahmajana. Brahmajanati, Brahmana. You know, so if someone has realized the Brahman, the Atman Brahman, then he can act as Surya in the human society and connect the human society, connect the human beings with the higher existence, the higher consciousness. That's why the Veda Samhitas are meant to be meditated and practiced and chanted by people who are more qualified than what we usually find in Kali Yuga. You see the point?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I do, very much so. And is this why the Bhagavad Gita and the Puranas are the Shastra for the Kali Yuga?
Yeah.
Is that the reason why, Mataji? Is it, you know, what you've just said there, basically?
Yeah. The Bhagavad Gita, first of all. And actually, it can also be first of all and last of all, because everything is there.
Yes. Yes,
you know,
yes,
everyone agrees on that. Adi Shankar agrees on that. You know, everybody agrees on that. The Bhagavad Gita is the best. You know, then after we actually understand and learn and assimilate and apply Bhagavad Gita, we can study the Upanishads. But the Upanishads are not as easy as they seem.
No.
They're more difficult to understand than Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is so simple, so clear. Basic. So my point that I always tell people, let's start from the ABC. Let's not try to go to the complicated equations. If we don't know the multiplication table, we don't know how to make simple, additions. What are we trying to do? Because we like the shape of the equations. Yes. What's the point? We don't understand. We think we understand. We think we are very advanced. But if we don't have the ABC, if we are still identified with the gross material body, what's the benefit?
Yes. That is very, very clear now, Mataji.
Good. Okay.
So just Mataji, it's been a wonderful discussion.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And
I think we've covered a lot of really good ground. So I'd like to thank you for really leading the way here in sort of improving my knowledge of this subject. So my obeisances to you, and my thanks.
Jai Jagannath, Jai Shriman. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Jai.
Thank you much.
Next time.
Until next time. Jai. Take care. Bye-bye.